Whelan in an exchange with the United States. This news has just been received that they are on their way to undisclosed locations outside Russia. They exchanged Russian prisoners being held by the U.S. and unnamed allied nations are being swapped. It is a high-profile prisoner swap between Russia and the West that may include jailed journalist Ivan Gershkovich taking place as we speak, and the exchange, which could see Kremlin assassins sent back to Russia, would be the largest prisoner exchange between Russia and the U.S. since the Cold War. Mr. Gershkovich, who was sentenced to 16 years on espionage charges by a Russian court last month, could return to the U.S. as early as this morning, and the Kremlin and Washington have not confirmed the swap yet, but it comes after a series of mysterious movements from prominent Western prisoners prompted speculation that Vladimir Putin had agreed to swap them for Russians held in the West. And flight tracking showing that a special Russian government plane used for a previous prisoner swap involving the U.S. and Russia had flown from Moscow to the Russian exclave of Kaliningrad. Russia releasing Wall Street Journal reporter Ivan Gershkovich and former U.S. Marine Paul Whelan as part of a major prisoner swap with the U.S. At 89, that's how many Russian drones Ukraine shot down overnight. It was one of the largest drone attacks on Ukraine since the war began, mainly targeting the region in and around the capital of Kyiv. The Russian leadership is trying to attract more volunteers for its war against Ukraine by offering would-be soldiers more money. And the Biden administration suspended $95 million in U.S. assistance to the country of Georgia after its parliament adopted legislation related to foreign agents that critics say was inspired by Russian law used to crack down on political dissent, and that sparked weeks of mass protests. Ukraine, meanwhile, has received the first F-16 fighter jets from NATO allies, a long-awaited delivery intended to fight back against Russian drone and missile attacks. Russia took delivery of this unspecified number of F-16s yesterday, falling with an end-of-the-month deadline for the transfer. Thousands of people participating in the state-organized mourning ceremony in the Iranian capital of Tehran for the killed leader of the Palestinian Islamist Hamas movement, Ismail Haniyeh. The entire political elite of Iran, including Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and the new president Masoud Pezeshkian, were present. Khamenei conducted a prayer for the dead in front of Haniyeh's coffin. And the Iranian government declared 3 days of national mourning after the targeting killing of this high-ranking Hamas leader in Tehran. He is due to be buried tomorrow in his adopted homeland of Qatar, and he was in Tehran for a visit to attend Pezeshkian's inauguration as the new Iranian president when he became the victim of a nighttime strike. Thousands turned out for the funeral procession today. Iran has ordered 3 days of national mourning and held this funeral procession amidst calls for revenge after the killing of the Hamas political chief Ismail Haniyeh. His death was announced by Iran's Revolutionary Guards. And Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has commanded Iranian forces to launch a direct attack against Israel. He has reportedly ordered this direct strike on Israel following the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh, and his death has been widely attributed to Israel, which did not claim responsibility, but has pledged to eliminate Hamas's leadership following the October 7th attacks. Top Iranian officials meeting the representatives of Iran's regional allies from Lebanon, Iraq, and Yemen to discuss potential retaliation against Israel after the killing of the Hamas leader in Tehran. Israel's military says it has confirmed that Hamas's military chief Mohammad Deif was also killed with an Israeli airstrike in the Gaza Strip, and that happened last month. He was targeted in the strike on a compound in the Khan Yunis area on the 13th of last month, but Hamas is yet to confirm his death. Israel says Deif, one of the figures responsible for planning the 7th October attacks in southern Israel, in which 1,200 people were killed and 251 taken hostage. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has told citizens in Israel to be ready for challenging days ahead following this dramatic escalation of tensions with Iran and Hamas. Israel's military said fighter jets and other aircrafts have carried out attacks on 35 targets across the Gaza Strip, including groups of terrorists, buildings, and other infrastructure. And the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah confirming that Israel killed a top commander after a rare strike in Beirut. The Iran-backed group said that Fawd Shukr was in the building during the attack that happened earlier this week, and they were searching for him in the rubble to determine his fate. Hezbollah's announcement came after an overnight strike in Tehran that had killed Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh. Hundreds of mourners have chanted death to Israel, and America is the greatest Satan at the funeral of two children killed in an Israeli strike on Hezbollah's stronghold in southern Beirut. And UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres denouncing strikes on Beirut and Tehran as a dangerous escalation. The UN Security Council holding an emergency meeting today after Hamas said its political leader Ismail Haniyeh was killed. And 3 American airlines and a British carrier have cancelled their flights to Israel in response to escalating security tensions as Tel Aviv braces for possible retaliation from the Lebanese Hezbollah group following the assassination of one of its key military leaders in Beirut. And that also, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken urging all parties in the Middle East to stop escalatory actions and achieve a ceasefire in Gaza. The U.S., meanwhile, has reached a plea deal with 3 prisoners accused of helping to plan the 9/11 attacks and who were being held at the infamous Guantanamo Bay facility. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, Walid Mohammed Sheikh Mubarak bin Attash, and Mustafa Ahmad Adam al-Habsawi all reached a plea agreement with the U.S. The Pentagon would not comment on any further details of the plea agreement. The New York Times reporting the 3 will receive life sentences, and the possibility of the death penalty is now off the table. The 3 accused prisoners all charged jointly in 2008 and again in 2012 in connection with the 2001 September 11th attacks against the U.S., which killed nearly 3,000 people after the terrorist group Al-Qaeda hijacked 2 planes and crashed them into the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center. Along with these 3 prisoners who reached the plea deal, 2 others were similarly charged in connection to the 9/11 attacks, Ali Abdul Aziz Ali and Ramzi bin Al-Shib. And the families of those killed in the 9/11 terrorist attacks are likely to push back against the plea deal, which they have said in the past allows the prisoners to avoid a trial. Meanwhile, it is Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer who will introduce legislation today reaffirming that presidents do not have immunity for criminal actions, an attempt to reverse the Supreme Court's landmark decision last month. His No Kings Act would attempt to invalidate the decision by declaring that presidents are not immune from criminal law and clarifying that Congress and not the Supreme Court determines to whom federal criminal law is applied. While California battles the 5th largest wildfire in state history, a new inferno in Colorado has forced the evacuation of about 600 homes near Denver. The Stone Canyon fire has scorched more than 1,500 acres and killed at least 1 person. Boulder County Sheriff has also deployed the state National Guard to assist in the fire responses as the quarry fire spread rapidly southwest of Denver overnight. And in North California, the Park Fire has destroyed hundreds of structures and is now 18% contained. Donald Trump made a combative appearance yesterday at a conference of black journalists during a heated question and answer session that at times focused squarely on the race of Vice President Kamala Harris. He claimed that he did not know until a few years ago that she, who is Indian American and black, was black. He then baselessly suggested that she had decided to turn black only recently for political gain. Is she Indian or is she black? He asked. U.S. Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump falsely suggesting to the country's largest annual gathering of black journalists that his Democratic rival Kamala Harris had previously downplayed her black heritage. He drew a smattering of jeers from an audience of about 1,000 people, falsely claiming that his rival turned black just a few years ago. He later denounced, Harris has denounced those attacks against her and responded to remarks made by former President Trump at the annual meeting of the National Association of Black Journalists in Chicago yesterday. He, of course, had claimed that she is of Indian and Jamaican heritage and recently happened to turn black, as he said. Harris addressed his comments later yesterday when speaking at the Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Convention in Houston. She's calling on the former president to face off against her in a debate, saying that he was pulling out after he said earlier this week that he would probably debate her. The comments from her came while she was speaking in Atlanta, telling a crowd that the momentum in this race is shifting and there are signs that Donald Trump is feeling it. During the first whirlwind week of her second presidential campaign, Kamala Harris locked up the support of the Democratic Party, recruited thousands of volunteers, and hauled in $200 million in donations. But the challenge over the next 98 days will be whether she can harness that energy to power electoral victories in both traditional party strongholds and the newer battlegrounds that had appeared to be slipping away under President Biden. Vice President Kamala Harris will deliver a eulogy for U.S. Representative Sheila Jackson Lee at a North Houston church today, as days of memorials for the longtime Democratic lawmaker draw to a close. She is poised to be the first black woman to be a major party's presidential candidate, and Jackson Lee became one of Congress's most prominent black women during nearly 3 decades, representing her Texas district. And she helped lead federal efforts to protect women from domestic violence and recognize Juneteenth as a national holiday. She was 74 when she died on the 19th of last month after being treated for pancreatic cancer. A fire broke out at a church in Dallas yesterday, making this the third church fire 3 weeks in a row. Crews got the call around 3:30 about this fire in South Dallas at the New Generation Church at the intersection of 56th Street and Ivy Lane. And despite the heat, they were, though, able to quickly put it out in about a half an hour, and nobody was hurt. This is the third church fire in Dallas in the last 2 weeks. Last Friday, a firefighter was heard battling the one at Pleasant Valley Baptist Church, and the Friday before that, a massive fire at the First Baptist Church destroyed the historical chapel out there. The mother of a toddler is suing a Plano preschool for $1 million, claiming her girl got a hold of an employee's vape pen on her first day. The Denton County woman says the 20-month-old girl came home from her first day at the Bright Horizons preschool with a puffy face and spent the night throwing up. She was told nothing happened, and 8 days later, the suit says the preschool admitted the toddler had gotten her hands on a pink vape pen that belonged to an employee, and another employee found the child holding the pen with smoke coming out of her mouth. The FBI in Dallas has made an arrest after weeks of searching for a man suspected in 2 bank robberies. Because of his clothing, they called him the Derby Desperado. Authorities arrested 40-year-old Justin Lee Chambers in Grapevine, and he's being charged in connection to the July 12th robbery of the bank on Forest Lane. And the first robbery happened at a credit union on Telecom Parkway in Garland on the 3rd of July. And both cases, the man passed a note to the teller demanding money and then fled the scene in an SUV. Katie Ledecky continues to define dominance in the Olympics. The 4-time Olympic athlete defended her crown in the 1,500-meter freestyle yesterday at the Paris Olympics, edging out the entire field by 10.33 seconds, earning her 8th Olympic gold medal. And with the gold medal, she ties Jenny Thompson as the winning female athlete in the U.S. Olympic history with 8 Olympic gold medals. The biggest and most diverse fleet of the 2024 Olympic sailing events, the one-person Dingy, is scheduled to hit the water today in sweltering Marseille. And when it was over, Rafael Nadal's Paris game, potentially his Olympic career ended with a doubles loss in a stadium central to his legacy. He soaked in the applause accompanying his exit from the red clay. With this 6-2, 6-4 defeat alongside Carlos Alcaraz to the 4th-seeded American duo there of Austin Krajak and Rajiv Ram, actually Nadal's last match at the Roland Garros. Maybe, he said, I don't know. A former U.S. Green Beret who in 2020 organized a failed cross-border raid of Venezuelan army deserters to remove President Nicolas Maduro has been arrested in New York on federal arms smuggling charges. A federal indictment unsealed this week in Tampa, Florida, accuses Jordan Goudreau and a Venezuelan partner of violating U.S. arms control laws when they allegedly assembled and sent to Colombia AR-style weapons, ammunition, silencers, night vision goggles, and other defense equipment requiring a U.S. export license. He was charged with conspiracy, smuggling goods from the U.S., and unlawful possession of a machine gun, among 14 counts. And the U.S. said the world should acknowledge that Venezuela's opposition won last weekend's election, while President Maduro doubled down on his claims of victory, saying his opponents should be jailed for decades. It is Nicolas Maduro pledging to meet international demands to release full voting records from Venezuela's election during a meeting with the top advisor to Brazil's Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, according to a Brazilian government official. And it is, meanwhile, to date, July the 22nd, a few days ago, was the warmest day ever recorded on Earth, according to data from the European Union's Copernicus Climate Change. What's more, over the last few decades, Europe has been warming nearly twice as fast as the global average, due to a combination of different factors. One of them, that the Arctic, part of which is included in the Institute's definition of Europe, is probably one of the fastest warming regions in the world. And another reason is the loss of ice and snow in the mountains, as well as on the plains of Central Europe. Balkan countries battled wildfires stoked by these high temperatures, winds, and a weeks-long drought, as firefighters in Croatia yesterday cited their toughest days so far this season, and North Macedonia suggested it might seek help from NATO. The UNESCO World Heritage Committee have registered Japan's Sado gold mine as a cultural heritage site after Japan agreed to include its dark history of abusing Korean laborers during World War II in this exhibit. The mine, which operated for nearly 400 years before closing in 1989, was once the world's largest gold producer and linked to wartime abuses. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the world news on community radio networks. The Swiss government calling on its citizens to leave Lebanon in face of escalating tensions in the region following the killing of the Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran and the strike against a senior Hezbollah commander Fouad Shukr in Lebanon. The Switzerland's Federal Department of Foreign Affairs saying the risk of escalation has increased further and recommends that Swiss nationals leave the country by their own means if this appears possible and safe. Meanwhile, most of the Indian nationals living in Lebanon are employed as workers in companies in construction sectors and agricultural farms. And the Indian embassy in Lebanon is advising all Indians to avoid non-essential travel, urging citizens not to travel to Lebanon, while calling on those in the West African country to exercise caution because of the escalation of tensions due to the killing of leaders of Hamas and Hezbollah. This was the second advisory issued by the Indian Embassy of Beirut. Since the 29th of July, there are nearly 4,000 Indian nationals in Lebanon. Canadian authorities have uncovered a previously unknown plot to assassinate a Sikh activist in North American soil. Recent reports from various U.S. and Canadian media outlets highlighted a 3rd November last year police raid in Brampton, Ontario, which resulted in the arrest of 5 men on firearm charges. And the arrests occurred a day before the son of a prominent member of the Sikh independence movement was to be married in the Toronto area city. And several well-known activists, including New York-based lawyer Gurpatwant Singh Pannu, were expected to attend that wedding. The accused include Swaranpreet Singh, who's 21 years old, Jobanpreet Singh at 21, Maninder Singh, 22, and Ramanpreet Singh, 30. The 5th individual, Amandeep Singh, is also charged in connection with the killing that Canada had directly linked to the government of Indian Prime Minister Modi. Amandeep Singh was arrested 4.5 months after the murder of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, a prominent Sikh Canadian activist and president of the Guru Nanak Sikh Gurdwara in Surrey in British Columbia. Last month, Nikhil Gupta, the alleged intermediary in the plot to kill Pannu in New York, was extradited from the Czech Republic to the U.S. to face charges. The Indian government, which has designated both Nijjar and Pannu as terrorists, denied any involvement in the assassination plots. India and Canadian intelligence chief have reportedly held at least 2 meetings in a third country to share information, while Canada's national security advisor has engaged in a series of discussions with India's High Commissioner in Ottawa. The Parliament session today, where the Aam Aadmi Party MP are demanding to lower the minimum age for contesting elections to 21. The monsoon session commenced on the 22nd of last month, and as per the schedule, it will conclude on the 12th of this month. We have Prime Minister Modi saying that both sides working towards a free and rules-based Indo-Pacific, with Vietnam as India's partner in an act in the East policy. After holding wide-ranging talks with Vietnamese Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh, Prime Minister Modi said that India and Vietnam will continue their cooperation for a free, open, rules-based and prosperous Indo-Pacific, and added that New Delhi supports development and not expansionism. Vietnam is an important partner in the Act East policy and Indo-Pacific vision. On the 6th day of the Paris Olympics, Swapnil Kusale bagged a bronze in the 50-meter rifle 3 positions men's shooting final, and this is a bronze for Swapnil Kusale. Meanwhile, Nikhat was knocked out, and Pranoy versus Lakshay. We have Swapnil Kusale, who fought hard and added to India's medal tally with the bronze in men's 50-meter three positions shooting. The Indian men's hockey team squandered a 1-0 lead and lost 2-1 to reigning Olympic champions Belgium. Nikhat Zarin's campaign came to an end as she lost to top speed Wu Yu in women's 50-kilogram round of 16. It is, meanwhile, highlighting that Swapnil Kusale is simply sensational as he battled hard to clinch bronze in the 50-meter rifle three-position men's shooting final day at the ongoing Paris Olympics today. His bronze saw India's medal tally increase to 3. Manu Bhaker and Sarabjot Singh won a team shooting bronze, with the former also coming third in an individual event. And meanwhile, India crumbling at the 20-kilometer race final. And bad news for Indian fans in archery as Praveen Jadhav lost in his men's individual round. And, of course, Nikhat Zarin losing to China, and men's hockey losing to Belgium. Over 250 people have been killed. Actually, the number is a little bit higher now this morning, and 200 injured in the devastating landslides in Wayanad. We do have Rahul Gandhi and his sister Priyanka Gandhi, who visited Wayanad, where the massive landslides have struck, causing extensive destruction, and authorities fear a surge of fatalities. Rescue teams are racing against time to trace the missing people and struggling to continue the rescue efforts in challenging terrain without heavy machinery to uncover debris and buried victims. In the Krishna Janmabhoomi case, a setback to the Muslim side, where the High Court has dismissed the plea against the suits that were filed for possession after the removal of the structure of the Shahi Eidgah Masjid, as well as for the restoration of the temple. The Allahabad High Court today dismissed the Muslim side's plea, challenging the maintainability of the suits in the Krishna Janmabhoomi Shahi Eidgah dispute in Mathura. Reacting to the development, the lawyer of the Hindu side, Advocate Vishnu Shankar Jain, said they will be ready if the Muslim side approaches the Supreme Court. The union budget discussions commenced in both houses of parliament again today, with opposition parties labeling it as discriminatory, while the government described it as visionary. Aam Aadmi Party MPs demanding lower minimum age for contesting elections to 21. Union Home Minister Nirmala Sitharaman presenting a statutory resolution regarding Section 8A of the Customs Tariff Act, and Union Minister Kiran Rijiju and Congress Deputy Leader Gaurav Gogoi supporting the second report of the Business Advisory Committee. Aam Aadmi Party's Raghav Chadda has demanded that the minimum age for contesting elections should be reduced from 25 to 21. And it is he who is called for this, for contesting the elections. He is the youngest MP in the upper house and said that India, despite being one of the youngest countries in the world, has old politicians. The opposition today questioned the durability of the new parliament building after a Congress MP posted an alleged video of rainwater leaking inside a hall in the complex. He posted this showing the water leaking from the roof of a lobby of the new parliament building, and workers inside the building seen collecting water in a bucket. Parts of the country have also received exceptionally heavy rainfall in July, leading to floods in states such as Uttar Pradesh, Gujarat, and Kerala. India also recorded its warmest July when it came to nighttime temperatures, and the second warmest July since 1901 in terms of mean temperatures. The Indian Meteorological Department said even as parts of the country received exceptionally heavy rainfall, leading to floods in states such as Uttar Pradesh, Gujarat, and Kerala, it was the warmest July since 1901, both in terms of mean and minimum temperatures for east and northeast India. The Indian Meteorological Department said normal to above normal rainfall is most likely during the second half of the monsoon season in most parts of the country, except in some areas of the northeast and adjoining areas of East India. Ladakh, Saurashtra and Kutch and some isolated pockets of central and peninsular India were below normal rainfalls. And there is more heavy rainfall predicted for tomorrow. Slight rains expected to continue till the 6th of this month. Visuals from Himachal Pradesh showed the Beas River flowing to the brim as heavy rains continue to lash the Himalayan state. And one person died and over 30 were missing after a cloudburst in Simla district's Rampur division. Teams from the National Disaster Response Force, the Indo-Tibetan Border Force, and state police have been deployed to start rescue operations. As many as 32 people died in rain-related incidents in 7 states since yesterday evening as monsoon mayhem continues in India. And the nationwide death toll, meanwhile, due to the rain-related incidents, have shot up to 283, with Wayanad in Kerala being the most affected with 256 fatalities as of right now. In a significant move, it is the Ministry of Interprovincial Coordination recommending life bans on Pakistan Olympic Association Secretary General Khalid Mahmood, who is also the president of the Pakistan Boxing Federation, and PBF Secretary General Colonel Nasir Ijaz Tung, after a Pakistan boxer slipped in Italy during an international event earlier this year. Following the shocking report regarding the boxer slipping, the IPC ministry formed a high-profile inquiry committee headed by a senior IPC officer. And the committee, besides imposing a ban on both the officials, pointed out that prima facie the case involves human trafficking. And the inquiry committee recommended recovery of 1 million rupees, besides adding that the 2 officials may not be considered for holding positions in office of any of the national sports federations in the future. The boxer, named Zohaib Rashid, slipped in Italy during the first world qualifying tournament held in March. The MQM has announced that it will move court in the United Kingdom to get back the party's properties worth billions of rupees. And these, they said, basically belong to the Shuhada, the martyrs of MQM. According to MQMP leader Farooq Sattar in a press conference, he was flanked by Muttahida chief Khalid Maqbool Siddiqui and said the party would fight for rights of its workers and martyrs, and the money to be received by selling these properties would be spent for the welfare of the party workers, he vowed. The U.S. visa offices in Islamabad and Karachi processing more than 10,000 applications a month, and the appointment waiting time has also been reduced by almost half compared to last year. A senior U.S. embassy official informed the media in Islamabad that the number of visas issued from offices in Islamabad and Karachi reached the highest level last year. The number will surpass in the ongoing U.S. fiscal year that ends in October. And the delay in the visa application processing time was because each application is treated individually and evaluated independently. 24 people were killed and 17 injured as monsoon rains lashed various parts of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa from the 29th of last month through today. The Provincial Disaster Management Authority said Pakistan experiences its monsoon season from July to August, typically receiving around 255 millimeters of rain each month. In 22, the monsoon rains caused extensive damage throughout the country, with over 75,000 homes destroyed and 130,000 partially damaged in that area alone. Torrential rains in Lahore broke a record of at least 44 years today, as the city witnessed a maximum rainfall of 337 millimeters within a day in the airport area. Former army official Akbar Hussain has been court-martialed for inciting sedition among military personnel. He was booked by the Islamabad police last year on charges of sedition and terrorism for his alleged involvement in the violence and vandalism that was witnessed amid protests that erupted in the wake of PTI founder Imran Khan's arrest. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have in the world news for you. I do have your financial news coming up in just a moment. Stay with us right here on Community Radio Networks. As we start this month of August, let's see all the financial news that you need to know on this Thursday, the 1st of August. U.S. stocks poised to resume their rally today as upbeat Meta results put earnings center stage again after the Federal Reserve boosted hopes for a September rate cut. Futures on the S&P 500 and the tech-heavy Nasdaq 100 were both up roughly 0.4% after the indexes closed with hefty gains. Dow Jones Industrial Average futures edged up 0.1%. The Federal Reserve held its key interest rate steady again yesterday, but signaled it would start lowering it as soon as mid-September amid easing inflation and a cooling job market. A report yesterday provided the latest evidence that wage growth is slowing, bolstering the case for rate cuts. The Fed delivering on rate cut hopes. A slew of big tech companies are reporting earnings this week, and already at least one clear winner has emerged, and that's, of course, NVIDIA. The chip maker continues to reap the benefits of big tech's large spending on artificial intelligence. NVIDIA makes a good chunk of the technology used to power AI. Facebook and Instagram parent Meta reported its second quarter earnings after the bell last night, beating Wall Street's expectations on the top and bottom lines, but the company warned it expects to see significant capital expenditures growth in next year. Its stock, Meta stock, climbed more than 6% in pre-market trading today. Shares of Microsoft and AMD started off the trading day heading in opposite directions yesterday as Wall Street digested the company's evening's earnings. Before that, Microsoft fell some 7% in after-hours trading following its shaky report and continued trading down more than 1% yesterday. AMD shares, on the other hand, jumped more than 3%, lifting fellow chip behemoth NVIDIA as well. Shares of Carvana surged nearly 13% in pre-market trade, a day after the used car retailer forecast annual core profit above Wall Street estimates as more car buyers consider shopping online. Moderna today cut its 2024 sales forecast for COVID-19 and respiratory syncytial virus vaccines by up to 25% or $1 billion as it expects very low sales to the European Union, sending the shares of vaccine maker down nearly 11% before the bell today. The Cambridge, Massachusetts-based company had previously said it expected roughly $4 billion in sales for the year, which was already the lowest figure for annual revenue since it launched its COVID vaccine in late 2020, the company's first commercial product. Beer giant Anheuser-Busch InBev reported forecasts beating core profit for the second quarter today as cost cuts offset weaker sales. The shares have gained 1.75% but remain 5% lower than at the start of the year. The maker of Budweiser and Stella Artois had delivered a solid performance against generally weak results for peers like Heineken. U.S. oil and gas producer ConocoPhillips posted a second quarter profit that beat Wall Street estimates today, benefiting from higher output and oil prices. The Houston, Texas-based company posted adjusted earnings of $1.98 per share for the quarter that ended on the 30th of June. Boeing's board announced yesterday industry veteran Kelly Ortberg will become the aerospace company's new CEO starting the 8th of this month, replacing outgoing head Dave Calhoun. The leadership shift was announced as Boeing reported a 15% decline in overall revenues. Spirit Airlines forecast its current quarter revenue below analyst estimates today as excess capacity and intense competition on its routes hamper the ultra-low cost carriers' pricing power. It also anticipates a $7.2 million hit to its third quarter operating income due to operational disruptions caused by the CrowdStrike IT outage, which forced the carrier to cancel 470 flights. Etsy said it'll begin testing its first ever loyalty program next month, a move designed to boost the e-commerce site's sluggish sales and draw in occasional shoppers. The New York-based company said select buyers will receive an invitation for the program, which will offer free shipping across the U.S. and access to discounts. Online events platform StubHub is using predatory sales tactics to illegally mislead consumers into shelling out more for tickets. Washington, D.C. attorney claiming in a complaint that StubHub is tricking consumers by adding mandatory fees until just before shoppers make a purchase, and these fees can boost the total cost of a ticket by 40%. The Biden administration has announced the next steps for student debt relief this fall, with the Department of Education set to email borrowers about potential relief options. And it is earlier this month that a report said retirement is increasingly becoming a luxury many American workers cannot afford due to several factors, including rising housing and medical costs. It found that 57% of those not participating at all in a plan in the future may run short of money, and that the baby boomers and Gen Xers are the most likely to see these shortfalls. There's no denying the cost of everything is up these days, but that's not stopping people from spending on their pets. 97% of pet owners still splurge on their animals because they consider pets to be a part of their family, and the annual cost of owning a dog can range from $1,000 to over $5,000 a year, while the typical monthly cost lies between $80 and $440. This April, a press release from IBM revealed that a group of major tech companies plan to provide a new training for workers as artificial intelligence becomes a more ubiquitous presence. It said this training would benefit more than 95 million individuals. And after months of anticipation, ChatGPT's advanced voice mode has now started to become available to small groups of ChatGPT Plus users. Their reaction has been very enthusiastic as they jumped on the opportunity to try out the new features developed by OpenAI. Some Instagram users were informed yesterday that some of their photos have been permanently deleted from the app's stories archives and are unable to be recovered due to a technical issue. The story no longer available. And even though it has been fixed now, the issue, but the story cannot be restored if it is lost. Meta, which owns Instagram, declined to share how many users were affected, but said only the people whose stories were lost will see the notification. Netflix Squid Game will debut its second season on the 26th of December, with a third and final season set to premiere next year. The first season of Squid Game became Netflix's most watched series ever, with 265.2 million viewers and 2.2 billion watch hours in its first 13 weeks of release. Maya Rudolph will reprise her role as Vice President Kamala Harris on Saturday Night Live through the presidential election. She first appeared as Kamala Harris in an SNL sketch in 2019, won an Emmy for Outstanding Guest Comedy Performance in 2020, and another for her hosting role on SNL in 2021. Production on Rudolph's Apple TV Plus comedy series Loot has been paused to accommodate her return to SNL. Snoop Dogg received swimming lessons from Olympic legend Michael Phelps at the Summer Olympics in Paris. And during the swimming lessons, Snoop Dogg and Michael Phelps compared their bodies and swimming styles, with Snoop Dogg dubbing Phelps Flipper. Snoop Dogg has been actively involved in the Olympics this year, serving as a torchbearer, attending various events, and even working as an NBC correspondent. The drug called liraglutide is one of the glucagon-like peptide receptors agonists, which include semaglutide, known as Wegovy or Ozempic, which are licensed for managing overweight and obesity and for type 2 diabetes. However, scientists are discovering further applications for these drugs beyond their original purpose. Alzheimer's disease is the one where the brains of patients who had taken the liraglutide showing a significant reduction in shrinkage compared to patients who had taken a placebo. And the shrinkage was seen by brain imaging of the frontal, temporal, and parietal lobes and total gray matter of the brain. And these are parts that control memory, learning, language, and decision-making, all critical functions often affected by Alzheimer's. U.S. regulators took a step towards forcing a recall of as many as 51 million airbag inflators they have said could explode in a crash, an escalation of a safety issue that has plagued the auto industry for years. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration issued a supplemental initial decision saying it considers the parts defective after a lengthy comment period and industry pushback. A decision and order issued this week by the Consumer Product Commission requires online retail giant Amazon to change its policies regarding third-party products after some were found to be hazardous. More than 400,000 items sold through Amazon's Fulfilled by Amazon program are subject to the order, and these include faulty carbon monoxide detectors, hair dryers without electrocution protection, and children's sleepwear that violated federal flammability standards. A cyber attack on a blood donation nonprofit could have a massive impact on hundreds of hospitals in the southeastern United States. This cyber attack on One Blood, which is now raising concerns about how it may impact the hospitals that the nonprofit serves. The incident is being investigated as a potential ransomware attack. And while mushrooms have been used for centuries as meat replacements, breakthroughs in fungi fermentation are leading to a new crop of high-protein, high-fiber meat alternatives. Fermented fungi taking the alternative protein market by storm. Alongside plant and cell-based protein, it now represents one of the three mainstays of the burgeoning meat alternative sector. And Nature's Find, a Chicago-based food tech company, leading the way with its one-of-a-kind nutritional fungi protein known as Phi. And the protein is derived from a naturally occurring microbe that was originally discovered in geothermal springs in the Yellowstone National Park. Sealed inside a habitat in Texas and cut off from the outside world for over a year, Kelly Haston was the commander of a first-of-its-kind simulation for NASA to prepare for a future mission to Mars. From conducting mock Mars walks to tending to a vertical garden and occasionally grappling with boredom, she expressed pride in advancing the cause of space exploration while admitting the experiences made her reconsider the reality of life on the red planet. The overarching goal of the experiment, called CHAPIA, Crew Health and Performance Exploration Analog, Mission 1, is to better understand the impacts of isolation on a crew's performance and health. And this project lasted 378 days and concluded early last month. After all, a round trip to Mars could easily take more than 2 years, factoring in the transit time of 6 to 9 months and the time NASA hopes to spend on the planet. A major new development in Frisco is expected to have a big impact on the city's economy. Construction crews have started work on Fields West, a mixture of residential, retail, and entertainment space at the Dallas North Tollway and Panther Creek Parkway. And Frisco's Mayor Jeff Cheney said it's part of the effort to attract new people to the region, along with the Universal Kids Resort. There are 7 million visitors a year to Frisco. A big part of the local economy is to bring in even more visitors. And the Universal Kids Resort, meanwhile, should be finished in 2026 and the Fields West development ready in 2027. Grapevine and Colleyville ISDs have joined a growing number of school districts in North Texas, limiting students' use of cell phones during the school day. The school board passed the rules this week, and existing rules that do not allow elementary school students to use phones during the school day do remain in place. Billionaire mogul Elon Musk has accepted Venezuela's disputed President Nicolas Maduro's invitation to fight him on national TV. The recently re-elected politician, who faces accusations of fixing the election, pelted the challenge to him in a speech full of fury, calling the Tesla CEO his arch enemy. Social media creates a virtual reality, and who controls the virtual reality? The new arch enemy, he said, Elon Musk. His comments quickly went viral, with several X accounts tagging Musk in the clip and asking if he would rise to Maduro's challenge, and the billionaire later added that Maduro would chicken out of the fight. A boycott sparked by the war in Gaza helped contribute to McDonald's first quarterly decline in same-store sales since the COVID outbreak in early 2020. The fast food company, known for its hamburgers and French fries, reported a 1% decline in revenue across all its businesses, but pinned the blame on disproportionately lower demand abroad, and especially in France, Europe's third-largest economy, behind Germany and the UK. The problem is, he said, that France was one of the markets that has a higher Muslim population. And so when you think about the Middle East, the impact that we are seeing in France has been more than maybe other markets because of that population. Google and TikTok were fined by Russia today for failing to comply with an order from communications regulator Roskomnadzor and over these banned content. The search engine giant was fined 5 million rubles and 4 million rubles to TikTok. Then the fines follow a crackdown from Russia on foreign technology companies posting content it labels as illegal. An overnight protest by climate activists at the Leipzig-Hall airport in eastern Germany forced a 3-hour halt to cargo flights officially today. The protest by the Last Generation group followed demonstrations last week at the Cologne-Bonn airport and then at the Frankfurt airport, Germany's busiest, which significantly disrupted passenger flights. German airports have significantly busier in the first half of this year than in the same period last year, with 90.8 million passengers arriving and departing. Ferrari today raised its forecast for its full-year revenue core earnings after the luxury sports car maker beat estimates in the second quarter, supported by a richer product offer and increased demand for personalization. Indian-American Kandi Srinivas Reddy, linked to an H-1B lottery rigging scam, was a Congress candidate from Adilabad Assembly. He is from Telangana and has come under scrutiny for his alleged involvement in an immigration scam to manipulate the H-1B visa lottery system in the United States. And the Reddy's activities reveal a complex network of companies and a systematic exploitation of the visa process, raising serious concerns about the integrity of the system. He's a figure with ties to both the US and India and has been implicated in a scheme that manipulated the H-1B visa lottery system through a process known as multiple registration. And this tactic involves submitting numerous applications for the same individuals under different company names, significantly increasing their chances of being selected in the lottery. He controlled several entities, including Cloud Big Data Technologies LLC, Machine Learning Technologies, and many others. They had similar names and shared addresses, submitted thousands of entries, and securing hundreds of H-1B visas. And his company finally got a total of 54 visas, far more than any previous year. They scored more than 300 since 2020. Indian billionaire Gautam Adani is mulling an investment of more than $2 billion in a port in Vietnam's coastal city of Da Nang. And this is a port, it's called the Lien Chu Port Development, is one of the numerous infrastructure projects being looked at. The chairman of Adani Group said that in a meeting with Vietnamese Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh in New Delhi. We do have the Adani ports, meanwhile, registering a 47% profit growth and a 21% revenue from April to June quarter. Adani Ports and Special Economic Zone reporting this net profit. Their ports business revenue from operations grew 21% during that quarter. And the net profit grows 116% year to year. We have also August starting on a positive note as the Nifty ends its session above 25,000 and the Sensex surpasses 81,000. Fast-tag regulations, where the National Payment Corporation of India introduced updated guidelines that focus on know your customer requirements. If you miss the income tax filing deadline, you're facing several consequences, including a late penalty. The shares of Ola Electric IPO will be listed on the BSE and the NSE with the tentative listing date of the 9th of this month. Global VC investment is surging to a 5-quarter high as artificial intelligence was a significant driver, accounting for over half of the 10 largest funding rounds globally. Infosys shares have traded in the red after 32,000 crore rupees GST. The Director General of GST Intelligence probing the company for an alleged GST evasion of over 32,000 crore rupees. Gold and silver prices today are trading on the higher side of the multi-commodity exchange. And Infosys has received a GST notice for this alleged tax evasion. Along with this, Kavach Systems rollout is accelerating as the Western Railways complete 405 kilometers of trials, targeting 735 by 2025. The Delhi-Mumbai Expressway is set that 1,136 kilometers have been completed and the full project is set for completion by 2025. And the world's second largest ropeway project, the construction of the Simla ropeway project, is going to start in March of next year. Meanwhile, Sanofi is getting marketing authorization for its vaccine to treat RSV in India. And Digi Yatra expansion, where 12 more airports are ready to implement the facility. We do have a focus on self-sufficiency, stronger currency, and macroeconomy to help India become a $5 trillion economy in 3 to 3.5 years, according to the Cabinet Minister Piyush Goyal. And Indian music is dominating streams as local talent gains global transaction, according to Spotify's Loud and Clear report. Fatigue, mental health, and issues are most common among post-COVID symptoms, according to the government, telling the Rajya Sabha today. And we do have Zomato's net profit jumping 126.5 times in the April to June quarter compared to the year ago. The online food delivery reporting multi-fold year-on-year growth in its consolidated net profit. And India's central bank proposed to allow a wider set of alternatives, including fingerprints and passwords, as additional factors of authentication for all digital transactions. Currently, India does not have any rules for how to authenticate digital payments, but the industry has primarily adopted text-based one-time passwords for authorization. Excitement is building as Hyderabad prepares to host an extraordinary convergence of industry, innovation, collaboration, and sustainability. From the 16th to the 19th of this month, the High-Tech's Exhibition Center will be the epicenter of technological advancement and sustainable solutions as it welcomes the 8th edition of the Hyderabad International Machine Tool and Engineering Expo, the 3rd edition of the India Process Expo and Conference, and the inaugural Eco-Sustain Expo, set to amaze its showcase of cutting-edge advancements in machine tools and engineering technologies. Over 300 exhibitors will present their latest innovations, providing attendees with a unique opportunity to explore a wide array of machinery, equipment, and solutions in metalworking, automation, robotics, tooling, and industrial engineering. Australia announced the world's first nationwide program to treat peanut allergies in babies. The approach, based on encouraging results from clinical trials, seeks to build tolerance through small dose exposure in early development. And this free program applies to parents of babies under age 1 diagnosed with a peanut allergy at one of 10 participating hospitals. And these babies will be provided a daily individualized dose of peanut powder, with the dosage increasing until the child reaches their maximum tolerance level. And after 2 years, the child will be given a food allergy test to measure reactivity. Australia is considered the allergy capital of the world and has a relatively high incidence of peanut allergies, with 3% of its population diagnosed by age 1. Only 20% of those diagnosed will outgrow peanut allergy by the time they are teenagers. And it is a colorful, funny, and open-minded young girl, and her name is Cynthia Victor, 25-year-old plus-size Sri Lankan American content creator who currently lives in New Jersey. She's born in Montreal, Canada, and was only 1 when her parents migrated to the U.S., where she has lived ever since. And following a brief stint in college where she studied human resources and labor studies, Cynthia has realized that her passion was to create social media content to empower women who looked like her, plus-size, brown-skinned, and South Asian. Her parents fled the Tamil genocide in Sri Lanka that began in 1956 to find a new home and a new beginning. And her platform is to create beauty and fashion content that is a mixture of Western aesthetics and Sri Lankan culture. A partnership there, right? And by the way, this is her origination with the fat acceptance movement, and argues about normalizing unhealthy body types, using her social media power to defy societal norms of what is considered beautiful. On a quest to encourage people to feel comfortable in their skin, never shy away from their culture, and feel visible in a world that makes them feel unseen. And a partnership between ride-hailing giant Uber and BYD is a boost for the world's largest electric vehicle makers' expansion plans, following punitive tariffs levied by the US and the European Union on Chinese car exports. The Shenzhen-based BYD will supply 100,000 EVs to Uber globally. And the two companies said this in a statement last night. The cars will be introduced to markets including the Middle East, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. Some 100,000 electric vehicles made by China's BYD set to be used by ride-sharing app Uber worldwide, and according to this partnership between the two firms. The United Kingdom, and not China, received the highest amount of profits and dividends on foreign investment in financial year 24, according to the State Bank of Pakistan's data last night. Pakistan has received 5 bids from Chinese firms to help it raise funds via panda bonds. These are a type of debt security issued by foreign entities in the Chinese capital markets. The Pakistan Telecommunication Authority said that internet services were restored across the country following an earlier interruption today. Amid issues with media uploads on WhatsApp via mobile PAT, PTCL and Uphone subscribers face significant internet disruptions, with users from across the country reporting outages and erratic service speeds. The Pakistan Consumers Price Index in this last month has risen 11.1% year on year, according to data from the Pakistan Bureau of Statistics. And all the country's power distribution companies, including K Electric, have been accused of fleecing consumers through overcharging on top of backbreaking electricity tariffs, which compelled Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif to extend the deadline for payments of bills by 10 days. And the Indus Motor Company announced the milestone achievement of exporting vehicles manufactured in Pakistan during a ceremony held at the company's manufacturing facility at Port Qasim Authority, and they're revealing plans to export the Toyota Fortuner and the Hilux and Corolla cross models to oceanic countries. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have in the financial news today, but I do have the final segment of our program coming up soon. Stay with us right here on Community Radio Networks. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the final segment of our program today. On this first day of August, as we welcome this beautiful hot month, we are under a heat advisory today also, and our temperatures will definitely be going into the triple digits today. I have huge thanks going out for support of Community Radio Networks, and these thanks going out to Discount Power, to Houston EB5, to the Ahluwalia Law Offices, the Wyndham Hotel in Irving, Digital X-Force, Kinzer Law, My Kolachi, Ruchi Palace by My Kolachi, Shri Vimal, Vimal's Venue, Eggholic, Mystic Mandala, and Flash Brush Productions. And to keep you all cool, we do have some events happening in town. This Saturday, the Indian Cultural Heritage Foundation is presenting a spectacular dance musical called Krishna, Fire to Frost, by a dynamic dancing duo, Nirupama and Rajendra, and a troupe of 21 artists. This Saturday at 5 o'clock at the Moody Performance Hall, and tickets are available at Ticket DFW. Krishna, Fire to Frost, this musical on the enigmatic personality from the Mahabharata Draupadi. It is at 5 o'clock this Saturday. And also starting this Saturday and going all the way till the 9th, from the 3rd to the 9th of August, the Radha Krishna Temple in Allen invites you for a life transformation with Swami Mukundananda. Daily discourses on the power of thoughts through Patanjali Yoga Sutras from 6 to 9 every evening at the Radha Krishna Temple in Allen from the 3rd to the 9th. The 2024 North Texas Job Fair, hosted by U.S. Congresswoman Beth Van Dyne, is in partnership with the U.S.-India Chamber of Commerce, happening on the 8th of August. And this is going to be at the Texas Rangers, where you can go there for this job fair hosted by Congresswoman Beth Van Dyne, Texas Rangers Stadium. Check out the registration at myntxjobs.com. 9th of this month, Madhuri Dixit will be in town at the Malachite Room at the Renaissance in Addison. You can get your tickets at 360shows.com. The Wishwin Spellathon for this year is going to have the semifinals for the Junior Spellathon on the 9th and 10th, and then the semifinals for the Senior Spellathon on the 11th and 12th of this month. Wishwin.org. On the 10th of August, Yade. This is a program where the songs of Kishore Kumar, Lata Mangeshkar and Muhammad Rafi will be sung by Shabbir Kumar, Prashant Naseri, Sanjeevni Bhilande and Abhinandan Sarkar. It's going to be at the Grand Center in Plano. A 2-day holistic festival of life and wellness, Saturday and Sunday, 17th and 18th of this month, 11 to 5, both days at the Cotton Mill in McKinney. It is a holistic festival of life.com. Or for more information, you can call Vijay at 972-750-1419. Pakistan Society of North Texas is presenting Qayed Mela, a celebration of Pakistan's Independence Day, with a live performance by Farhan Saeed and Sabah Qamar. Music, food, clothing, booths, mehndi, kids activities, and plenty more on Sunday the 18th at the Frisco Flyers Event Center. And on the 18th of August, we start a very special exhibition at the Dallas Museum of Art in downtown. It's called Frida, Beyond the Myths. Coinciding with the 70th anniversary of Frida Kahlo's death, the DMA is presenting Frida Beyond the Myth, composed of over 60 works across media, paintings, drawings, prints, and photographs. The exhibition exploring the life of one of 20th century's most well-documented artists, one who continues to elude our understanding of her as an individual. This exhibition will be starting on the 18th of this month at the Dallas Museum of Art. Please do mark the 22nd of August for the Wellness and Workplace Conference by the U.S.-India Chamber of Commerce, where the keynote speaker Nimesh Javeri will be there, and he is the Executive Vice President and Chief Impact Officer of McKesson. The event will be also held at the McKesson Corporate Headquarters from 9:30 to 2 on the 22nd of August. The India Association of North Texas invites you to the 47th Anand Bazaar, celebrating 77 years of India's independence. It is on Saturday, the 31st of August at the Rough Riders Stadium in Frisco. Vendor booths are available, and we do have sponsorship opportunities also available for this free music concert by Kanika Kapoor. Fireworks, lots of performances, special surprises, food booths, a lot going on. Check out more details at iant.org. India Association of North Texas bringing you this 47th Anand Bazaar, celebrating 77 years of India's independence. Join the Brahma Kumaris of Dallas in welcoming Sister Shivani, a globally renowned spiritual teacher and motivational speaker, as she guides us with ancient wisdom to bring hope and clarity in times of confusion and chaos. 2 to 4 on Sunday, the 8th of September, the Credit Union of Texas Event Center, and that is in Allen. Season 2 of Mughal-e-Azam, the Broadway-style musical, is happening at the Dallas Music Hall one more time, and it is on the 13th, 14th, and 15th of September. On the 14th of September, Flash Brush Productions bringing you a bridal expo. It's on Saturday, the 14th of September at the Frisco Hall from 10 10 to 7, an all-day event. And if you'd like a booth there, would like to sponsor this event, please call Priya at 972-963-0954. The 19th of September is North Texas Giving Day. And 13th of October, the Dallas Festival of Lights, the Grand Diwali Mela, is happening at the South Fork Ranch, brought to you by Mystic Mandala. And for more information, you can call Vijay at 972-750-1419. DallasFestivalOfLights.com is their website for more information. Before we end our show for today, let's get you some stories from the annals of history that happened on the first day of August. Explorer Christopher Columbus sights the coast of present-day Venezuela. Thinking it an island, he christened it Isla Santa and claimed it for Spain. His men go ashore at what is now the Paria Peninsula a few days later. That was Christopher Columbus sighting the coast of present-day Venezuela, his first eyes on South America, thinking it's an island on the 1st of August in the year 1498. And he had discovered for Europe this new world whose riches over the next century would help make Spain the wealthiest and most powerful nation on earth. On the 1st of August in 1914, 4 days after Austria-Hungary declared war on they declared war on Serbia, and Germany declares war on Russia and France and orders a general mobilization. The following day, the first German army units cross into Luxembourg in preparation for an invasion of France. And over the next 3 days, Russia, France, Belgium, and Great Britain all lined up against Austria-Hungary and Germany, and the German army invaded Belgium. The Great War that ensued was one of the unprecedented destruction and loss of life, resulting in the death of some 20 million soldiers and civilians. The First World War begins to escalate on today's date, the 1st of August in 1914. As more than 5,000 athletes from 51 countries march into a stadium packed with 100,000 onlookers, Adolf Hitler makes his only public statement of the Berlin Olympics at its opening ceremony on this day in 1936, when he said, "I proclaim the Games of Berlin, celebrating the 11th Olympiad of the modern era, to be open." Before his declaration, the dictator entered the Olympic Stadium to the German national anthem and the Nazi anthem, as well as salutes of Sieg Heil, as the athletes made their traditional alphabetical march into the stadium dressed in each nation's regalia. Some countries, including Austria and France, gave the Nazi salute as they passed by the Führer. It was Hitler overseeing the Berlin Olympics opening ceremony on today's date in 1936. Simmering racial tensions and economic frustrations boil over in New York City on the night of the 1st of August in 1943, culminating in what is now known as the Harlem Riots of 1943. During an altercation in the lobby of the Braddock Hotel, a white police officer shoots a black soldier, Robert Bandy, triggering this massive uprising called the Harlem Riot of 1943 on today's date. The riot also affected Harlem residents, and they were James Baldwin, Malcolm X, who was then called Malcolm Little, and the poet Langston Hughes, whose poem Beaumont to Detroit, 1943, ends with a reference to the sad irony of African Americans fighting for a country that did not see them as equals. I ask you this question because I want to know how long I got to fight both Hitler and Jim Crow. That, ladies and gentlemen, was the poem of the Harlem Riot of 1943 that began on today's date, the 1st of August. And on that same date, in that same year, 177 B-24 bombers take off from an Allied base in Libya, bound for the oil-producing city in Romania, nicknamed Hitler's gas station. The daring raid, known as Operation Tidal Wave, resulted in 5 men being awarded the Medal of Honor, 3 of them posthumously, but failed to strike the fatal blow its planners had intended. Operation Tidal Wave began ominously with an overloaded bomber crashing shortly after takeoff and another plunging into the Adriatic Sea. 167 of the original 177 bombers made it to Ploiești, which is the city in Romania, whose oil fields and refineries provided the Germans with over 8.5 million tons of oil per year. It was Operation Tidal Wave, where the U.S. forces attempt this risky air raid on Axis oil refineries on the 1st of August in 1943. Anne Frank, the young Jewish girl hiding out in Nazi-occupied Holland, whose diary came to serve as a symbol of the Holocaust, writes her final entry 3 days before she and her family are arrested and placed in concentration camps. She was 15 at that time and received the diary on her 13th birthday, writing in it faithfully during the 2 years she and 7 others, including her parents and her sister, her father's business associate, his wife and son, and the dentist of Otto Frank's secretary, lived in a secret annex behind her father's business in Amsterdam during World War II. And in this final entry that she wrote on today's date in 1944, she wrote of how others perceived her, describing herself as a bundle of contradictions. She wrote, "As I've told you many times, I'm split in two. One side contains my exuberant cheerfulness, my flippancy, my joy in life, and above all, my ability to appreciate the lighter side of things. By that I mean not finding anything wrong with flirtations, a kiss, an embrace, an off-colored joke. This side of me is usually lying in wait to ambush the other one, which is much purer, deeper, and finer." She continued that what she says is not what she feels, which is why, in her words, she had a reputation for being boy crazy as well as a flirt, a smart aleck, and a reader of romances. The happy-go-lucky Anne Frank laughs, gives a flippant reply, shrugs her shoulders, and pretends she doesn't give a damn. The quiet Anne reacts in just the opposite way. If I'm being completely honest, I'll have to admit that it does matter to me, that I'm trying very hard to change myself, but that I'm always up against a more powerful enemy. Of the 8 prisoners, Otto Frank was the only survivor. Anne Frank died the following year in 1945 from typhus at Germany's Bergen-Belsen concentration camp, and a diary was published by her father in 1947, and it has since become a worldwide bestseller. Anne Frank puts her last entry into her diary on today's date in 1944. During World War II, an advanced Soviet armored column under General Konstantin Rokossovsky reaches the Vistula River along the eastern suburb of Warsaw, prompting the Poles in the city to launch a major uprising against the Nazi occupation. The Warsaw Uprising began on today's date in the year 1944. This result was spearheaded by a Polish general who was the commander of the Home Army, an underground resistance group made up of some 40,000 poorly supplied soldiers. And in addition to the accelerating the liberation of Warsaw, the Home Army, which had ties with the Polish government in exile in London and was anti-communist in its ideology, hoped to gain at least partial control of Warsaw before the Soviets arrived. And although the Poles in Warsaw won early gains, the Soviet liberation of the city was inevitable. Nazi leader Adolf Hitler ordered his authorities to crush the uprising at all costs. It was the Warsaw Uprising that began on today's date in 1944. And on the 1st of August in 1961, amusement park lovers head for the thrills as Six Flags Over Texas, the first park in the Six Flags chain, has its soft opening. 5 days later, the park had its grand opening. It's located on 212 acres in Arlington, Texas. The park was the first to feature log flume and mine train rides, and later the first 360-degree looping roller coaster, modern parachute drop, and man-made river rapids ride. The park pioneered the concept of all-inclusive admission price. Until then, separate entrance fees and individual ride tickets were the standard. The park, which took a year and $10 million to build, was the brainchild of Texas real estate developer and oil man Angus Wynn Jr., who viewed it as a short-term way to make a buck from some vacant land before turning it into an industrial complex. He recouped his personal investment of $3.5 million within 18 months and changed his mind about the park's temporary status. With 17.5 million visitors in its first 10 years, the park became the Lone Star State's top for-profit tourist attraction. Today, ladies and gentlemen, average annual attendance at the Six Flags Over Texas is over 3 million. And today, Six Flags Inc. is the world's largest regional theme park company and owns and operates 26 theme, water, and zoological parks in North America. But the first Six Flags opens in Texas in Arlington on the 1st of August in 1961. Charles Whitman takes a stockpile of guns and ammunition to the observatory platform atop a 300-foot tower at the University of Texas and proceeds to shoot 46 people, killing 14 people and wounding 32. He had killed both his wife and mother the night before and was eventually shot to death after courageous Austin police officers, including Ramiro Martinez, charged up the stairs of the towers to subdue this attacker. It was this ex-Marine who goes on a killing spree at the University of Texas in Austin on today's date in 1966. He was able to hit people as far away as 500 yards, and for 90 minutes he continued firing while officers searched for a chance to get a shot at him. Eventually, they shot and killed him. By the end of his rampage, 14 people were dead and more than 30 were injured. The University of Texas Tower remained closed before reopening for tours in 1999. The US, the Soviet Union, Canada, and every European nation except Albania signed the Helsinki Final Act on the last day of the Conference on Security and Cooperation in Europe on the 1st of August in 1975. And this act was intended to revive the sagging spirit of detente between the Soviet Union and the US and its allies. It was during Richard Nixon's presidency he and National Security Advisor Henry Kissinger fashioned a foreign policy towards the Soviet Union that came to be known as detente, literally a lessening of tensions between Russia and America. Helsinki Final Act signed on today's date in 1975. And on the 1st of August in 1981, MTV, music television, goes on air for the first time ever with the words spoken by one of MTV's creators, John Lack. Ladies and gentlemen, rock and roll. The Buggles' video Killed the Radio Star was the first music video to air on this new cable television channel, which initially was available only to households in parts of New Jersey. It was MTV that went on to revolutionize the music industry and become an influential source of pop culture and entertainment in the United States. And other parts of the world later, including Europe, Asia, as well as Latin America. It was MTV that was launched on today's date, the 1st of August in the year 1981. Video Killed the Rock Star. That is what was played for the first time on MTV. And in early days, its programming consisted of basic music videos that were introduced by video jockeys and provided for free by record companies. But as the record industry recognized MTV's value as a promotional vehicle, money was invested in making creative cutting-edge videos. And later in the 1980s, MTV started airing non-video programming geared towards teenagers and young adults, and developed a reputation for pushing cultural boundaries and tastes. The airing of Madonna's 1989 Like a Prayer video is just one famous example. And in 1984, the channel launched the MTV Music Video Awards, which were followed by the MTV Movie Awards. But this was the first song that was played as MTV launches on the 1st of August in 1981. Song is called Video Killed the Radio Star by the Buggles. On the 1st of August in 1996, A Game of Thrones, an epic fantasy novel by George R.R. Martin, is released. The book was the first in his Song of Ice and Fire series about feuding medieval noble families on an imaginary continent called Westeros. Although not initially a bestseller, A Game of Thrones gained a loyal following, and the Song of Ice and Fire series eventually became a huge hit, selling millions of books and spawning a blockbuster HBO series. And all of you have seen A Game of Thrones. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was what was started. This was published, this fantasy novel, on the 1st of August in the year 1996. All of you familiar with The Game of Thrones. We'll try and play here the theme music of The Game of Thrones, the HBO series. The first title in this trilogy. And then, of course, we saw A Clash of Kings, A Storm of Swords, A Feast for Crows, and A Dance with Dragons. 2 more books were forthcoming, the novels known for their elaborate plots and large casts of morally complex characters. The HBO series ran from 2011 to 2019. But the book was first debuted on the 1st of August in 1996. Also on the 1st of August in 1996, sprinter Michael Johnson breaks the world record in the 200 meters to win gold at the Summer Olympics in Atlanta. 3 days earlier, he had also won the 400 meters, making him the first man in history to win both events at the Olympics. 4 years earlier, at the Barcelona Olympics, he had been the clear favorite to win the 200 meters until he came down with food poisoning 12 days before the race. 10 pounds lighter, he didn't recover his strength in time for the competition and lost in the qualifying rounds, a major disappointment for both him and his US team. Johnson did win gold, however, as a member of the world record-breaking 400 relay team in Barcelona. But Michael Johnson earns his 3rd gold medal on the 1st of August in 1996. He became the first man to win both the 200 and 400 meters in the Olympics, and also he had won both races at the 1984 Olympics in Los Angeles. That, ladies and gentlemen, was some stories from the annals of history that happened on today's date, the 1st day of August. Wishing you all a lovely Thursday. And for those of you who would like to reach me directly, my number is 214-675-1754. And I will see you all tomorrow.